Welcome to Campo and Joe. Great to be back with my man Dave Campo for another Campo and Joe podcast. Joe C. from XL Primetime, noon to 3 weekdays. Thanks for tuning in to our YouTube channel or Facebook Live, wherever you're checking us out. And Dave, always a pleasure to say hello to Dave Campo.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be here. And during the football season, it's great, to have a chance to recap and look forward and get ready for another ball game.
All right, this is our first long-form Campo and Joe podcast since they opened up the season. Man, I thought they were going to get a dub. I'm guessing both of us thought they were going to get a dub.
Yeah.
Where did it go wrong?
Well, unfortunately, the only way at the point in the game, the only way that they could get back into it, the Commanders, was to hit a big play, and they hit the big play to McLaurin. And that's what got them back into the football game. Yeah. And unfortunately, we made two or three many mistakes.
Yeah.
And you can't win. It's not how many great plays you make. It's how many bad ones you avoid. So unfortunately, we didn't finish the game the way we needed to.
All right, so we're going to hit the Colts versus the Jags hard, but we figure we might as well go back and at least give you an idea of some of the things that we took out of this game. Now, being down 14-0 is nothing new, unfortunately, here in Duval. We've seen this team start very slow. But the thing that was the most exciting for me, and I'm thinking for you too, Coach, and for most Jaguar fans out there, is they clawed their way back into this bad boy. They had 3 trips in the red zone in the first half, only 3 points. That was just driving me bananas, and yet they still were able to pull themselves back in this game.
Well, first of all, we saw that in the preseason games, and we saw it a little bit in practice where they were struggling inside the red zone, inside the 20. And, it kind of reared its ugly head in that ball game. But if you ask me what was the most exciting thing about the ball game was what you said. A year ago they would have been out of business, when they were down 14-3 and things not looking that great. They come out after halftime. Coaching staff made some adjustments, which is a positive.
Yeah.
And they executed better in the second half. And again, that's the most exciting thing. They were able to rebound and handle adversity and go forward.
I think I've told you before, the way I've looked at the Jaguars in years past, particularly the last couple of years, if you go back to Doug Marone's last year and Herb's this past year, they won a fair amount of 30-minute games. They didn't win hardly any 60-minute game. So I've got to give them actual credit, this staff and Doug Peterson, for coming out of the locker room and making some changes and making some stuff happen.
I think that's one of the most exciting parts of it. I think that the one thing about Doug Peterson, and I think he has a really good coaching staff that can look at what's going on. I think they have a better communication with the players. What do you like? What's happening out there? A coach is not on the field. If you talk to Sheriff, he's going to be able to tell you, hey, look, they're doing this or that.
Right.
We're having trouble with that scoop block. We need to, double block down and pull, whatever it is. And I think this staff, because it's a more, I don't want to say it's less authoritarian and more looking ahead. And they have the ability to talk to the players, I believe, and that helps in those situations.
Talking and listening.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, which is
no
key.
Question. That's part of it.
Yeah, and you got to be a coaching staff that is, I think, you got to be confident in what your game plan is, but you also got to be smart enough to listen to what your guys are telling you every single time they come off the field. Those are the guys, like you use Brandon Sheriff as an example, those are the guys in the trenches that can give you an idea of what's going on and what might work.
Yeah, there's no question. And I think that the guys that are the best at doing it are the guys that do talk and listen and let's do what you feel comfortable with. When a guy comes off the sideline, if I'm dealing with one of my quarterbacks, I'm asking him, what do you see out there? What's happening? And I like this or I like that. Do you like that? Yeah. Those are the kind of things that have to happen in ball games to be successful.
All right, let's do some quick hitters. And you can jump in and go long form wherever you want to because Coach will break it down. That's what I love about him, his eyes seeing these games. But we talked about the the 3 trips into the red zone, coming back from 14 points down. Let's go to some individuals. Travis Etienne still probably kicking himself every time he puts the tape in because he could have had a couple of more plays. Not all his fault, but certainly I liked what I saw, but then you know that he could have done a little bit more.
Well, I think they all can get a little bit better at everything, and that's the nature. That's why you practice. You know, you don't rest on your laurels. You go forward. So there's going to be a lot of work, to correct certain things. But the thing that excited me is that I think they have a pretty good 1-2 punch with Robinson and Etienne. You know, Etienne, you get him the ball enough, he's gonna make something happen. I mean, he can make people miss. Yeah. And I think they'll get better as they get used to that, having that situation. But having Robinson to north-south runner that can make some things happen. They had 6 yards of carry. I don't think they ran the ball enough. Right. And I think that will be something that they'll do as they go forward. But that 1-2 punch, I'd get the ball to Etienne about 10 times a game, one way or another. Right. And I'd get the ball to Robinson maybe 15 or 20 times a game. So you're talking about running the ball 30 times a game. And that's what I think this football team needs.
Yeah, and I think Doug's probably smart enough and has been successful in doing so that he'll look whatever he was successful at in this last 60 minutes, they're going to try and take it away the next 60 minutes, and he'll have to adjust. I loved seeing James Robinson come out there with that, just basically playing it at full health, it looked like.
Well, it's a tremendous plus for the training staff and the doctors in getting him ready, but it's also a tremendous strength for Robinson that he was willing to put in the work necessary. I was interested. I heard him speak a while back where he said that first couple of weeks, he said, I didn't know if I was going to be able to do this. And then all of a sudden, with the confidence that the staff was giving me and my work ethic, I was able to get back. And it's great because he is a big cog in that offense. There's no question about it. And I'm not sure even the coaching staff realize how big a cog he is until the ball game, and that's a plus.
Undrafted, underappreciated, maybe second guessed, and he's proven some people wrong. When you take a look at the whole, having him back, and I knew as soon as I saw Snoop Connor as an inactive that they were planning on using him a lot more than maybe I thought that he'd be able to be used. Christian Kirk got involved. Zay Jones got involved. Overall, what did you like about the way the offense can click and work?
Well, I think the receiver core is an example of what I think we were missing a year ago. I think they all have a little different abilities, including the tight ends. That gives the offense a chance to be versatile. And I think the offense has to be versatile. The defenses today are so sophisticated and change coverages and disguises. You got to be able to use everybody. And I'm not surprised at Kirk. I mean, just watching him in that one preseason game, I can see that he can get open. And getting open is the key. But he also has the speed on the deep 49-yarder that he can take the ball up the field and take the top off the coverage. So, I think he's going to be a real factor. I think I don't know what his stats were in the past, but from what I understand, that was one of his best games. So that's a plus. You got a quarterback that can get the ball to you, and he has the ability to make some things happen.
And he's being viewed as a 1 here as opposed to less than a 1 because you had DeAndre Hopkins as your primary receiver out in Arizona. Let's get to the Trevor talk, okay, because he did hook up. He did make a few plays with a few guys, but there were probably a lot more plays. And I love the fact that Doug Peterson was willing to point that out in the Q&A this week. There were plays to be made, and Trevor does need to take that step forward.
Well, that's coaching. I mean, you can sugarcoat anything, and sometimes it's the right time to sugarcoat something, but there's also a time where you're willing to sit down and say, hey, look, he needs to play better. Right. He needed to hit this or that. We've got to get him more comfortable in the pocket, stepping up, whatever it is. Don't try to take the game to the defense. let the game come to you because you're talented enough to make those plays.
Right.
And so, I'm looking forward to him going forward, and I'm looking forward to how he plays against the Colts.
All right, pair him up with the offensive line. There were not a lot of great grades given out along the offensive line. Cam Robinson sagged at the end. Juwan Taylor had to leave with cramps. Fortner, a rookie, kind of got pushed around a little bit. Trevor needs to help them a little bit as well. He needs to move up in the pocket. But what did you think of what he can do better paired up with the line and what they can do better?
Well, I think, number one, he's got to get a better feel for the game. I think he's got to know when to step up and when to do certain things, when to try to – I think he was used to Clemson, not a whole lot of pressure. If nothing was open, I can get out on the perimeter. Well, in this league, those tackles – those ends, coming up the field, you got to be willing to step up and have two options, either to throw the ball or go lateral and run, and I think he'll learn to do that. But again, you got a rookie center. I think he could have helped the game a great deal with the passes that were batted down. I think our Barch and Sheriff had guys stymied at the line of scrimmage. And a number of times Fortner didn't have anybody on him.
Right.
And he's athletic enough, he could have gone and punched somebody with his shoulder pads in the ribs and gotten their hands down instead of having passes batted down. There's no reason for a 6'5" quarterback to get passes batted down. That's somebody's got to clean it up a little bit.
I think I heard, I'm trying to give the right guy credit, but I think I heard Riley Skinner on... No, I'll give Prosser credit. Jeff Prosser on the drill on one of our shows was simply saying that a good defensive player doesn't always need to get home and get the quarterback. If he's smart, he'll do exactly what you're talking about, and he'll pay attention, eyes up, and then hands up, and he's batting it down.
That's exactly right. And an offensive lineman is taught is to get their hands down. Whatever you have to do, get their hands down. And when you watch a guy like Wilson, the quarterback for Denver, if the offensive line didn't get guys' hands down, he wouldn't have been as successful as he is. So that's something they have to learn. And again, I have some concern with the offensive line. You've got really two young players there. You've got two tackles that are okay, not great. They've just got to get better, and it's a combination of Trevor helping them out and them getting better at what they're doing.
Blake Bortles about the same height. Blake was 6'5", Trevor 6'6", and Blake had a ton of balls batted down at the line of scrimmage. And so, you got to absolutely do that. All right, so let's jump to the other side because we definitely have to get to the Colts, but things that pop for you on the defensive side of the ball, Trayvon Walker being one of them.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question Trayvon has the ability to be a special player. I'm not saying that he's got to get 4 or 5 sacks every ball game or anything like that. He has ability to be a disruptor, and he's going to be a disruptor. That interception was really two things. One, athletic ability, but two, instincts. He knew he was getting ready to throw the football, and he wasn't going to get there. And it's the same thing with a guy putting his hands up. He saw it with his eyes where he was going to throw the football, and he stepped out there. And so, that's a real plus. Now, he's got to get better at finishing some rushes and doing some of those things. And also when he gets inside, he's got to be one of the ones that gets his hands up. Because
he's long,
absolutely. And he can create some situations with, especially the throws over the middle. But I liked what I saw. I think he's going to continue to get better, and that's a plus.
Secondary.
A little bit of a struggle there. Again,
this is against Carson Wentz, coach.
Well, Carson, when he has some time now, can carve you up too. It's pressure that forces him to make mistakes, which we were able to do a few times. A couple interceptions. But I don't think our pressure was as good as I thought it was going to be, especially on third down. So that's something that we have to improve on. But the secondary, there were a couple of key mistakes. You got a rookie center fielder in Cisco. And the one play that it just, hurts me when I watch the when they're double covering a receiver like McLaurin that can fly,
Right.
And they're supposed to reroute that guy, get him inside, don't let him get to the sideline. And the safety, who's supposed to first thing in half coverage when they're playing that two deep double on a guy, is to look to number one. And if number one's threatening, you got to get off to your mark and know where he is, and don't stay inside on the number two receiver. You got to leave it to the guy running up with him.
Right.
And he didn't do that. So it was a combination of Griffin not rerouting and Cisco paying too much attention to the inside receiver, and that was a big play that got him into the ball game.
It was a huge play. Coach Campo, and I know most of you who check out Campo and Joe, secondary work is in his blood, okay? He is a defensive man, and secondary is where his heart is closest to. And I couldn't help but think of you, and you've explained it very, very well. If you're Shaq Griffin, you have got to drive your guy outside, and as soon as that happens, you're using the boundary as best you can, and that safety needs to come and help. And I tweeted out, Shaq and Cisco just got Crisco'd because they got fried on that play.
It's disappointing, but hopefully that, and Doug mentioned that.
Yeah.
He came out and said, hey, we need to reroute a receiver, and we need to, get off the hash and know who's outside of them. And that's a big part of it. And then the other, the one to Campbell for the touchdown. He had that problem a little bit.
Not getting his hands up.
We've seen, right. And the big thing there is when you're inside the 20-yard line, that ball's coming out, and it's to a spot. And you have to have that clock in your head. He was in good enough position.
Right.
He just didn't have the clock in his head, and when he turned, he really didn't know if the ball was coming or not. Oh. It's coming. He had a step on him, and he was in good position to still make a play. And down there, you want to force an incompletion. You're not worried about interception. You want to force the field goal down there.
Right.
Because if you start looking for the football, that ball gets over your head. If it's up in the field, and a guy catches a ball over your head, you make the tackle, and you live for another down. When the ball's thrown a fade inside the 20, if the guy catches the ball, he's already in the end zone. It's a touchdown.
Yeah.
So you want to get the knockdown rather than worrying about intercepting the ball.
Do you coach, and this is just kind of a rudimentary question, but do you coach a defensive player? As soon as that offensive player's hands go up, your hands need to go up.
Stick the hand into the pocket.
Okay.
That's what you're taught.
Right.
And when he turned, he didn't reach. He could have reached and turned at the same time.
Okay.
But that's that mentality. Look for the ball and then react to it. Yeah. You can't do it down there. That ball is a spot throw, and it's thrown immediately.
Exactly.
So those are things that they can improve on. And the only other thing that stuck out to me defensively was the guys that didn't practice much didn't tackle very well. Williams, missed 3 tackles, I think, almost right in a row, about 3 or 4 plays in a row. And Lloyd missed a couple tackles, even though Lloyd did some good things and made some tackles. So,
towards the end of the game in particular. It's like he all of a sudden started feeling the speed, right?
Exactly. So those are things that they need to work on, and they need practice time to get that done.
Okay, so let's get to the Colts, and I'm looking at Matt Ryan's numbers, 32 of 50. Put it in the air 8 more times than Trevor did. They had to come from 17 points down against what most will regard as a bad Texans team. Give Houston credit, they were up. Colts fought back 352 yards, touchdown and a pick. Meanwhile, Jonathan Taylor goes 31 carries, 31 totes for 161 yards. And I'll get to Michael Pittman, one of your guys, in a minute, but that ball's going to be in the air a lot from Matt Ryan. How will Mike Caldwell and this defense prepare for Matt Ryan?
Well, I think you have to give the Colts credit, even when they were behind by 70, they were still running the football.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They didn't give up on the run because they know that their guy is the guy.
Yeah, and Frank Reich still probably haunted by not running Jonathan Taylor last year.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's going to be a big factor. You can't let him get going. That's one of the keys to it. And unfortunately, when that happens, you've got to get some pressure on the quarterback at the same time because Matt Ryan can throw the football, and they have the one good thing is that I think Pittman is a true number one, but I don't know that they have a really great number 2 and 3.
I agree with that.
And that's going to be a key to me. They were very inconsistent in the passing game during those 50 throws that he made.
Because you can go goodbye T.Y. He's gone. Paris Campbell's a guy that they were expecting to do a lot more than he has. And really, they haven't had anybody step up and establish themselves. But Mike Pittman had 9 catches for 121 yards.
Well, you're looking at a true number one.
Yeah.
I mean, big, good speed. Not great speed, but good speed. Great hands. Exceptional contested balls. He's going to make the most of those of anybody, probably maybe in the league. So he puts so much pressure on you with his ability to get himself open and a good route runner, smart.
Right.
And I was with him at SC. I don't think he dropped 3 balls in the entire time I was there, including contested balls. So you have to take care of him. And what that forces you to do, though, at times is to double cover, and that makes you a little light in the box. So they have when you have the triplets,
right,
which we had with the Cowboys back in the day.
Yes, you did.
You've got a primary receiver that can make plays. You've got a quarterback that can throw the football and is accurate, especially with no pressure. And you have a running back that can make things happen. The Achilles tendon that we had with the Cowboys that they don't have is their offensive line is not great. And you can get pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah.
And we have to be able to do that.
Yeah, and we'll find out because they didn't create a whole lot of pressure with 4-man rush this past week. Hopefully they can. But Michael Pittman was drafted 34th. And just to go back in time, I'm sure Campo and Joe fans that have checked this out over the last handful of years, you were sky high on him. You liked Laviska Shenault, but you liked Michael Pittman more. Pittman was taken ahead of Viska, so you can't necessarily say that they could have gotten him. But still, bottom line is two guys were second-round picks. One's gone from here, and the other guy's starring over there.
Yeah,
which will drive you crazy.
Well, I certainly, had a lot of. First of all, I'm going to know Pittman a lot better than I know Laviska.
Sure.
I saw him play a couple times and watched some film on him. But Pittman, I saw up close and personal, and he's definitely a force to handle. But he would be even better if there's a number 2 that's taking some pressure off him.
All right, now DeForest Buckner right now isn't healthy. He has missed a little bit of practice time. I'm sure he's going to be available and ready to go. But this offensive line is going to have to button up and make sure that Yannick Ngakoue doesn't get over on him because he certainly is going to come back with an idea that he can have his say and way against his old team. DeForest Buckner, Yannick Ngakoue, Shaq Leonard, they think is going to play. What are some of the worry areas when you look at Indy's defense?
Well, I think he and that Digbo or whatever his name is. I don't think I have that right, but I might be close. But anyway, they give him some pressure off the edge, and that's a factor. I think Kwity Paye, he's a kind of a playmaker. He gets sacks and he gets tackles for losses, as inside. So I think their defensive line is good. I would say they're probably not in the top 10 in the league, but they're pretty close. And so the pressure from them, their linebacker core is good, especially when Shaq plays. And the weakness for them is their secondary. I think Moore is a little banged up, who's one of the better slot corners. Gilmore is a pretty good player.
Long in tooth, but he's been a good player for a number of years.
So, but they have not played exceptionally well. So I think we've got to be able to run the football, and Trevor's going to have to make some throws, and I think our receivers will have a good day.
Now that's key, is getting themselves in a position, if they could go up early in this ball game, not only does it help the confidence of the offense, lets you use your running game, but it also gives the rushers for Jacksonville a chance to tee off and maybe get after Matt Ryan when you're playing with the lead.
Yeah,
it's much different.
And I think third down is going to be a factor. We gave up too many third down situations in the last ball game. That's what surprised me.
Yeah, 7 of 10 third down conversions for Washington.
Yeah, well, we got to do a lot better than that against Matt Ryan.
The other thing is if this Jacksonville team, we put a premium on them improving their pass rush. If they can work with the lead, get after Matt Ryan, it takes Jonathan Taylor not completely out of this ball game like you referenced, but it takes him out as far as being the lead guy that they can count on.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, it's going to be a challenge. I think it's going to be a close ball game because I think our team will improve from day one. I think the penalties will go down. I think they'll be more conscious of those things. And I'm looking forward to a really good football game. I think it's a winnable game. I'll say that for the Jaguars.
I hope so. They've not won here, the Colts, since 2014. I use the Colts fever story from 1979 is the reason they've been cursed. The Colts fever curse. They toyed with Jacksonville, the Ursays, back in the day. They wanted to leave Baltimore. They were ticked off at Baltimore. They said, hey, Jacksonville, why don't we come down there and you show us how excited you would be if we were to be a football team down there. 40,000, I don't remember what the number was, but thousands of people showed up in the old Gator Bowl. And then Irsay took all that fan excitement here in Jacksonville, took it back to Baltimore and said, you better give us what you want or we're going there. He used us.
Well, we don't like them then.
No,
and let me tell you this, they tried to toy with us again with bringing Lambeau in there for a workout.
Exactly.
So our guys ought to be fired up and ready to roll.
Yeah, I hope so. Let's enjoy it on Sunday, Coach. We'll see how it turns out. We'll be back next week with another Campo and Joe as we break it down. Dave, here's to a good game.
Always a pleasure.
Here's to a good game.